On this episode of No Pavement Needed, you're about to witness a massive transformation. We started with what used to be a stock 2020 Ford F-250 four-wheel drive crew cab truck we call the Super Tremor.
I see it. I think that might be it.
Oh yeah, check it out.
You know, Andre, I love this color. I didn't think I'd like it, but that is a really cool color.
Looks premium, it looks nice.
It's very important, FX4. We need to name the truck. We name all of our project trucks.
Super Tremor.
Super Tremor?
But that kind of locks us in.
Yeah, I like Super Tremor.
Super Tremor?
Yeah, I like Super Tremor.
It works.
We'll take it beyond the tremor, the Super Tremor.
And we're about to turn it into the biggest and baddest American-style overland rig using best of the best components, including the Carli suspension, which is the centerpiece of this build. Let's do the lift. Let's talk about the suspension. I'm gonna show you everything there is to know about it. Then let's put on the 37-inch tall tires and take this truck back to Colorado. And I'll also give you a little MPG loop on this lifted truck. Of course, this project would not be possible without many great partners, and we're here at Carli Suspension in Southern California because they're the top dog as far as heavy-duty pickup truck suspension systems are concerned, and they go to great lengths when they tune a truck suspension, which is why there's about 2,000 pounds of weight in back, because we're also going to be putting a camper on this truck for a Trans-America trail that we'll be doing later this summer. And basically we're going coast to coast off pavement. That's why the series is called No Pavement Needed. And the guys at Carli Suspension test the truck with the weight in it to simulate all the conditions on road and off road. Before we get too much further into the build, I'm gonna take this truck on a quick test drive with 2,000 pounds in the back, in the bed, and on stock wheels and tires. Basically EDB wheels and tires. Ooh, going over that speed bump was like no big deal, nothing. This suspension system is supposed to be no compromise. I'm not losing any payload capability and also gaining the right control and comfort on pavement and off. And I can tell immediately the combination of these springs with the Carli tuned King shocks, I forgot that I'm in a heavy-duty truck. Dan, thanks for having me here, first
Pleasure.
of all. I want to learn from the top, how long has Carli been around and what's your focus?
So Carli's been around since 2003. Basically the Carli suspension was born from a need in the heavy-duty marketplace. There was a lot of lift kit companies building, hey, you can get X amount of lift for $3,000, $2,000, whatever. There wasn't anybody saying this is what you can now do with the truck. A performance-based system made in the USA, engineered to do whatever you want to do with the truck from a utilitarian perspective.
So what's the system that we're putting on this truck?
This is the Pintop 2.5 system, and we've got a lot of kits. We've got the Commuter Series, the Backcountry Series, based around, I mean, the namesake is kind of what it is. The Commuter's the on-road, the Backcountry is the light-duty off-road kind of suspension system. The Pintop system is more the backcountry system on steroids. The guy who not only wants to take the truck off-road or works with the truck, but they want to do it at speed. They don't want any body roll. They want the thing to handle like it's on rails. They want all the sharp corners on road to be rounded.
So currently this is the top level of the new Super Duty.
That is correct.
Okay, so let's go over what you did on the front axle.
So the base of the Pin-Top 2.5 system is going to be the 2.5-inch lift coil springs. I mean, 2.5, 3 inches of lift, depends on cab configuration. But this is actually the first truck to wear our production springs for the gas motor, being it's a 7.3. So we've done diesel kits up until this point, but this is a lighter rate spring for that lighter motor. Then you've got the shocks. That's what makes the lift, right? You've got the springs that lift the truck, and then the shocks that cycle the new range of travel. So these are a King 2.5-inch shock. King is the manufacturer. Nobody makes a better shock than King does. Inside the King shock is a Carly piston, Carly custom tuning, 17.4 stainless shock shafts. This one, as we'll run over with the truck having a camper on it, we did some custom tuning beyond our production tuning that we do for these trucks.
Okay.
But that's what lives at the heart of this system here, is the shocks and springs. Then all the ancillary components. We've got brake lines, caster shims to correct your alignment, the adjustable track bar to recenter the axle. We've got our torsion sway bar up front there to make for a much better ride quality, gives you kind of an IFS feel, allowing side-to-side movement to basically be limited to that side, right? Where the factory sway bar, when you hit something on the right tire, you get chassis reverberation, you feel it on the left side through the whole chassis. This allows a little bit of give there, so you don't feel that quite so much.
Now here's a quick example of a front stock shock. Came off this truck, the F-250, and when you put it against this custom tuned shock, once again, the same body diameter difference, 2 versus 2.5, and the height difference and just the mass of this shock is just not quite there. Much stronger over there. Just kind of point out some of the other pieces that you did here.
So I could bore you to tears with everything under here, but we've got the adjustable track bar here.
Yeah.
We've got a 3/8 wall thickness on this bar. You get almost no deflection compared to even the factory forged unit. We've got our proprietary jammet nut down here. It's a tapered jam nut that allows for 100% more clamping surface area, so you can send that thing home and be sure it's never going to move on you. Underneath this boot here, the boot's there obviously to protect from corrosion, that kind of thing, but it protects a giant FK heat-treated chromoly hind joint, the best that you're going to find in the industry. In-house machined spacers. This is the smaller leveling lift height. So you'll see we have a little spacer down here. On the 4.5, we actually correct this pivot point higher with a taller spacer, but these are in-house machined spacers, again, made out of stainless steel. On the other end, we've got the frame side that is going to be the same FK chromoly heat-treated uniball up within that joint to make sure that you've got basically the misalignment that you need for the axle to shift forward and aft without binding anything in the track bar. And then around it, it's a cub joint. We have our proprietary cub joint there. That is a urethane that goes around the uniball to ensure that there's a little bit of deflection. It's not solid mounted, so it wears out super quick. Torsion sway bar is new, so we've always done end links to extend the factory sway bar, drop brackets to reposition the sway bar, because when you're lifting the truck, and not only lifting the truck, but extending the suspension travel of the vehicle, sometimes the factory components aren't quite up to the task. So we can drop the sway bar, we can extend the end links, we can make the factory sway bar cycle, and it works fine. For the guy who's got a huge load in the truck all the time, it makes sense to keep your factory sway bar. For guys that are driving around unloaded most of the time, or the weight is primarily over the rear axle, it makes sense to kind of sneak the most ride quality you can out of this vehicle, because the sway bar is the most neglected spring. People don't think about that as a spring, just the leaf springs and the coils up front. But this is a spring, and the factory one is immobile. So it allows for deflection side to side, so the axle can move independent of the frame rail for a much better ride quality.
I haven't done my workout today, so I'm gonna continue doing it a little bit. But this is a factory sway bar. Like Dan was saying, it's immobile. It's just basically a piece of steel that connects both sides of the truck together, and it helps to prevent body roll. But I mean, it's nothing like the custom unit that they put on this. What's going on up here?
So this is your factory drag link. You extend that basically to recenter your wheel after you're done with this lift. Then you'll see that we've got a saddle clamp in place of the factory steering stabilizer here, and then we've got our high mount steering stabilizer unit. This is again our unit. It bolts into the factory location with this little bracket. We have our high misalignment stud here to make sure that it can articulate and do everything that it needs to do without binding. This is our proprietary steering stabilizer, custom tuned for larger than factory tires. The body on this is stainless, so we're a big fan of stainless in this shop to make sure that, I mean, no one ever thinks about their steering stabilizer. Come down here with WD-40, wipe it down and worry about it corroding, right? So you can neglect this thing, not really worry about it. Check the nitrogen pressure in it once every couple of years, and you're good to go on it. But you'll notice that on this side over here, there's a Schrader cap. So you can fill it up, you can drain it, you can do whatever you need to do. Basically, it's an IFP shock instead of an emulsion shock. So that keeps the piston submerged in oil all the time and actually allows you to fill the stabilizer up with more nitrogen to counteract the common radial pull of like a Toyo mud terrain.
Okay.
A mud terrain from Toyo pulls to the right-hand side. If you put 200 psi of nitrogen in there, it'll counter that radial pull without having to do it like in the alignment shims like a lot of companies do.
So this right here is a stock radius arm, right?
Correct.
It's hollow. And it's relatively light. How much does this weigh up, Rob?
That one's like 13 pounds, give or take.
Okay, not too bad. But
Right.
this is one of yours in progress, right?
Correct. This one's all tacked together. Internal structure is tacked to the external structure of the arm. It's just waiting basically on finish welding and the cup to go in on the end.
So talk
and it's
about
most
this.
definitely not hollow. Throughout the entire length of the arm, we have an internal structure that's 1/4 inch X-gusset, basically. It ties into the clamshell structure of the arm through all these keyways here. So that's all finished welded, and then the joint cup goes on the back, and that's all finished welded, then it goes off to powder coat. But by the time all is said and done, you got a 30-pound arm compared to the factory 13-pound arm.
So why do you need so much meat on this?
You know, it's all about giving you guys a reason to run these arms. If we're going to build something, we're going to give you a reason. We've got the limit strap provision, so that tab goes in right here and you can see it mounted up on the truck there. We've got additional tire clearance for the arm here, and basically you have to narrow up the structure of the arm. Then you've got the top plate here for the ABS tab, and then you've got this long section. Well, when you're using a mild steel to build these arms, the more structure you can build into them, the better. You want them to be bulletproof. If this truck rolls or goes off a cliff, you want the only thing that's going to be left to be this arm.
I don't want to go off a cliff.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the whole point is if you did, this thing would survive it.
All right.
So
I
the
believe
more
it.
structure, the better.
All right, so this is how it all ties in, right?
Correct. So you can see the tire clearance pocket here. You can see the MIG weave that ties in the structure of the internal to the external, and that's what makes this one integral unit. And then you see the limit strap hanging right here. That's welded up on the frame to protect the shock from overextending. We've got 1 degree of caster. Caster's a huge deal on Fords. It's basically rolling the axle back. Okay, because when you put in a lift, a radius arm setup with 2 fixed points at the front and 1 at the back is going to lean that axle forward at that new position, that new ride height. You essentially want to roll the axle back to gain that front end stability. Well, when you put on a 2.5 to 3 inch lift, you lose exactly 1 degree of caster. So we give you that back, and then you've got a shim that comes with the system to add an additional degree. So that gives you 2 degrees of positive caster change, or up to 2 degrees of caster change, whatever you choose to put on, depending on how the truck's driving, once the kit is installed for better front end stability.
And I noticed that there's a skid plate on the differential.
Correct. You never really know what you're going to come up. If you're driving unmaintained fire roads, trails, whatever it happens to be.
Or cross-country off-road.
Or cross-country off-road with a camper in the back, you know, with your family in the middle of nowhere on a road you've never been on, and you're taking it at speed with your new suspension, and there's a washout, there's a rock that's sticking up in the middle of the trail. That prevents you from spilling your dip fluid and you know, calling a very expensive tow home.
All right, let's move to the back.
Absolutely. A lot went on in the back. We actually used this truck to prototype a few different systems. It wore factory leaf springs with our Adapacks. It wore our standard full progressive spring packs. Right now it's wearing a custom spring pack for the camper that's going to go in it. So it was a call to the guys over at Deaver Leaf Springs. We basically told them to take our full spring pack, and turn it into a 2,000-pound constant load variant, so that when you had that camper in the back, it was going to sit and perform exactly as our standard leaf springs do, but with that 2,000-pound camper in the back. They, of course, came through. We've got this beautiful spring pack here. You can see how girthy this thing is compared to, you know, even the Adipac on the factory leaf springs, and it's full progressive in nature. The more leaf springs you have, the more progressive that this design is. These are pretty thick because we're throwing a lot of weight in the back for constant bed load, but it's still going to give you that full progressive, predictable rear planted feel. So we top those off with the custom tuned 2.5-inch Kings. And again, the custom tuning went to a whole different level with this because you have that 2,000-pound camper going in.
Here is an example of what a stock shock looks like. This is the rear axle shock on the F-250 FX4. And if I put it up to the new custom one, this is a 2.5-inch body versus about a 2-inch diameter shock. But all of the components are beefier on this particular shock, not including, you know, years and years of experience that goes into this. King shock is well regarded. It's basically a top shock manufacturer, plus it has the Carli tuning on top of it. And check out this big fat line for the remote reservoir on the shocks. And in this case, in the rear, they live up by the bed. You can see the passenger side one up there and the driver's side one up here. And you also cut my exhaust system.
We had to. It was in the way.
All right, I'll have to redo it. I'll redo it. I'll redo it.
It was your choice. Run those tips or run these springs. I'm pretty sure you want these springs.
And you kind of relocated the bump stop a little bit.
You have to, because the factory Ford, you have a 2-inch block on these 2020s, and that 2-inch block has a tang that comes off, and it sits over the axle. So basically, when you eliminate that, because you're pulling the block out and you're putting the springs. Correct. Yeah, there was a factory block underneath the factory springs, and it was about 2 inches tall. Well, we stay away from lift blocks. The taller lift block goes, the more that you're pushing the power from the truck away from the spring that holds it, you start to get axle wrap, wheel hop. It's why, you know, back when Ford was using 3- and 4-inch blocks from the factory, everybody wanted traction bars. The things just inherently had wheel hop and axle wrap. Well, we get away from that, and you no longer require those traction aids because you're putting the spring level with the pinion. So it has no leverage to twist that axle. But in taking that block out, you have essentially made the bump stop hit off the axle. So you have to relocate that bump stop lower to bridge that gap is what you're doing. But there's no longer a tang here for that bump stop to hit.
Gotcha.
For the wheel, we're going with this 18-inch KMC wheel. I really didn't want to go much larger diameter on the wheel itself because I wanted more tire, and we got it. This is a 37-inch tall and by 12.5-inch wide Falcon all-terrain Wild Peak AT3. And I've never run this tire on a heavy-duty truck, so I'm excited to get it on the road. Let's get it on the truck and actually hit the highway. What do you guys think? I think it looks great, especially with the new wheels and tires. It just makes the whole package that much better. So notice the TPMS sensor is going off.
Correct.
How come?
The factory tire is just the lowest bidder that the manufacturer puts on. What that means is it requires max sidewall inflation pressure to maintain sidewall integrity and get to the load capacity needed for this truck when it's at max capacity. So these aftermarket tires, the D and usually E and F load rating, depending on what you put. This is an E, this is ideal. F is actually overkill, we don't recommend those. The E-rated tires that are off-road oriented like these, the all-terrains, the mixed terrains, and the mud terrains, require a lot less inflation pressure to achieve the same load rating. So we recommend 45 PSI in the front, 35 PSI in the back on the diesel trucks with a 7.3 up front, 40 in the front, 35 in the back. When you're hauling, max out the rears, adjust the front up a little bit, but you never really need to exceed that tire pressure unless you got some sort of a load on this truck.
So finally, we did a leveling kit for the truck to be level, but the button is in the air.
Right.
How come?
Well, the rear of the truck is a lot higher than our standard stance because it needs 2,000 pounds in the back.
Yes.
So when you first saw the truck and you're looking at the wheels and tires outside, we had that big pallet of coil springs in the back weighing 2,000 pounds. Truck was sitting perfect. Well, now that we have the extreme heavy-duty leaf springs in the back and no coil springs in the back weighing it down and setting into the leaf, it's going to stink bug quite a bit until you drop that camper in, then everything's going to come together.
Well, what do you guys think? I think this truck looks really badass. This is gonna be the biggest and the baddest overland rig of them all, and it has the custom off-road suspension to boot. Big part of overlanding is knowing exactly how far you can go. So when this truck was all stock, we took it on a highway and got about 15.5 mpg. Now it has a lift, it's a little bit heavier, it's got 37-inch tall tires, but the same rear differential at 355. So I want to find out exactly how efficient it is without a camper. So let's do it. For this test, we're using 87 octane because obviously that's the lowest in California. And that's just fine for the big Godzilla. All right, I'm gonna wait 30 seconds to top off. That's the way we normally do it, to let the fuel settle and kind of get a more even number. All right, let's get on the highway, and at the end of the video, I'll let you know the exact fuel economy. Roll topped off, trip meter reset. Guys, the Super Tremor is still swallowing miles at a prodigious rate. But there's one thing that I have to be very careful with, and it's my speed. And it's because these tires are now 37 inches versus 33 approximately, so the speedometer is way off. So I wanted to show you exactly how much off it is. I'm gonna set my cruise control at 65, and according to the GPS, I'm going over 70 miles an hour, so I'm about 5 miles per hour off. And I'm gonna maintain speed limit, which is 70, so I know exactly how fast I'm going, and at the very end, I'll tell you exactly my fuel economy. Doggies. All right, that was quite a trip, and I cannot wait to see exactly how I did. Let me fill up. All right, 87 octane once again. And look, I'm even gonna hang the cap properly, okay, on a little hook. This fuel tank is about 34 gallons. This is a short bed or regular bed F-250. And I need to calculate the mileage, and I cannot trust the computer inside the truck because we have different size tires. So let me get the miles. Drove 394 miles. Let's see how many gallons we get. Okay, 30 seconds. Just wait for it to top off, and then we'll know the numbers right now. Wow, that's exactly 29.5 gallons. All right, that's pretty nice. All right, so I went 394 miles, divide by 29.5 gallons. According to the calculation, 13.4 if I round up. And that's compared to 15.5 for a stock truck. So by adding a bit of weight, gaining height, 37-inch tall tires, I lost about 2 mpg. That's considerable, but for an overland rig, I think that's still not too bad to go almost 400 miles on a tank. And guys, stay tuned for much more on the No Pavement Needed series, because it's not just about this truck, it's also about the Jeep Gladiator Rubicon, that we're also building. So go back to tfltruck.com for that. So you started Carly Suspension, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what was the genesis like? You know, what did you want to do?
Had an idea and started making my first products, and then that moved into other products, and then started building a customer base, and just kind of keep the same concept from day one that we do still today, which is don't cut any corners, use the best product out there, and don't release it on the market until it's 100% we're happy with it, and we've tested it and ran through it. And